Alright, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is CIA's MK Ultra Infiltration of the Media. This is coming from Robert SEPEHR. Let's check it out.
Project MK Ultra was a human experimentation program implemented by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency intended to develop procedures that could be used to psychologically manipulate or brainwash individuals or unsuspecting populations.
Basically, create like Manchurian candidates.
It was a covert continuation of scientific experiments conducted by German scientists during World War II on human subjects during interrogations with hallucinogenic substances such as mescaline, with the stated goal of eliminating the will of the person being examined. The CIA project was a continuation of these earlier Nazi experiments by exploiting the advances made by the numerous German scientists who were hired to work for the U.S. as part of Operation Paperclip. The post-World War II American MKUltra program used numerous methods to manipulate its subjects' mental states and brain functions. In addition to high doses of psychoactive drugs, such as LSD and other chemicals like scopolamine, without the subject's consent, the CIA used electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and abuse, and other forms of torture.
Bro.
MKUltra's scope was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research at more than 80 institutions, aside from the military, including colleges and universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. That said, the attempts at psychological manipulation was not restricted to individual experimentation, but implemented on a large scale to influence public behavior through the infiltration of various forms of media, including film and music. John Homston, a retired CIA agent, has admitted on national Russian television that the CIA was behind the creation of the 1980s hip-hop scene and financed major hip-hop acts including NWA, Africa Boombata, and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. The government at the time spent, quote, big money, serious money, on this covert operation destined to further division and corrupt the American youth to nihilist, anti-establishment, and anti-American ideologies, he explained in a half-hour interview broadcast on national television.
I've never heard this, guys. I've never heard this in my life, actually.
Famous hip-hop songs of the legendary hip-hop outfit NWA were even scripted by a team of psychologists and war propagandists of the CIA. F the police, and when I'm called off, I got a sawed off, squeeze the trigger, and bodies are hauled off, and other nihilist and anti-establishment lyrics were intended to unleash a wave of cynicism towards authorities, promote the use of heavy drugs, and entice the youth with revolutionary counter-establishment ideas. The retired CIA agent claims the social engineering maneuver was extremely successful. Quote, "We understood at the time that music was a powerful means of propaganda to reach the youth," explained the 77-year-old man. "Our mission was to use teenage angst to our advantage and turn Generation X into a decadent, pro-drug, and anti-establishment culture that would create uprisings and further division within society. We even infiltrated mainstream radio to promote their music and reach millions of people every day," he admitted, visibly proud of the accomplishment. For many of us in the CIA, infiltrating the 1980s hip-hop scene was one of the CIA's most successful experiments of propaganda to date, he acknowledged during the interview. The retired CIA agent, who was granted a Russian residence permit in 2011, also claimed Lyre Cohen, commonly known as the tall Israeli who runs hip-hop, is a CIA asset. When it comes to engineering culture, no one touches Lyre Cohen, Homestead admitted. He ended up promoting rappers such as Jay-Z and Kanye West, and more recently brought Migos and Young Thug to prominence. Some experts openly admit hip-hop nihilism.
Here's the problem, guys. Could there be, right, some type of puppeting, let's say, specifically like within the hip-hop industry? Could be. A lot of the gang signs well, how about this? A lot of the signs that they're throwing up are just gang signs. These are straight street fraternity symbols, guys. But the fact that the person that's actually like narrating it has no idea of the people that he's talking about, I don't know. It feels like it feels a little conspiratorial, guys. It does. We know the writer of the song "F the Police" was Ice Cube. We know that. The mispronunciation of these rap groups' names is a little frustrating to me consistently. But let's continue.
Thug to prominence. Some experts openly admit hip-hop nihilism, which was expressed in the use of harder, more self-destructive drugs like heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine, pushed United States President Richard Nixon into the war on drugs, a campaign of prohibition of drugs and foreign military intervention, with the stated aim being to define and reduce the illegal drug trade within America and around the world. Quote, "The chaos we caused in America helped the government justify overseas wars of plunder to Middle America. The country wouldn't be where it is today without hip-hop."
Of course, hip-hop is not the only musical genre that has been infiltrated by the CIA, and certainly not the first.
Okay, guys, people do what they see other people doing, right? I'm not saying this can't be a plausible thing. This very specific symbol that some of these people are making, this is a W, right? And this is an upside down P. It literally means white and then, right? That's that symbol. I don't understand why people use it. I think that they've been using it inappropriately and incorrectly for a really long time. Generally, if you see just the letter B, this is the street fraternity known as Blood. But I just don't know what these people are doing, bro. Because every time I see this, I just see basically WP. That's what I see. I mean, I'm sure these people, some of these people here have no idea. Drake, I don't get it, bro. Right? Do you not understand? The video's okay so far, guys. So we, again, we cannot go too deep off of the conspiracy bridge here, guys.
Many popular musicians of the second half of the 20th century, like David Crosby, John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas, and Frank Zappa, grew up on military bases.
No idea.
They also resided in Los Angeles, in a military intelligence base on Laurel Canyon, where they were allegedly involved in the CIA's MKUltra program, a mind control operation whose real focus was to produce or at least manipulate the 60s counterculture scene. Jim Morrison was one of the earliest to arrive. He was son of the U.S. Navy admiral in command of the warships involved in the false flag operation known as the Gulf of Tonkin incident of 1964, which was used to justify the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War.
There's a conspiracy out there about Laurel Canyon. Now, Laurel Canyon is out in California, and there was a Air Force watchtower out there back in the late World War II area, back in the 1960s. And back then they had a studio there. Now this studio had a sound stage, a editing stage, a animation editing room. It had everything. Now this place, I guess, was used for the atomic testing footage. So all that footage was taken to this studio in Laurel Canyon and was edited there and was processed. So after they got this, they reviewed all the footage from the atomic testing. Now what's really strange about this is a lot of musicians came out of this place back in the 1960s. Actually, all of those hippie musicians that you hear actually came from Laurel Canyon. Now, A lot of people say that these musicians had ties with the military and with the studio up in Laurel Canyon, which was an Air Force base. So, as the Vietnam War was going on, this hippie movement out of Laurel Canyon started becoming very popular. And in fact, Jim Morrison's father, Stephen Morris, was a very highly naval officer, very high ranking, and he was actually part of the Gulf of Tonkin, which started the Vietnam War. So as this was going on, his son, Jim Morrison, was becoming very popular in the cultural movement. A lot of famous artists came from there. Even the Beach Boys came from there. Now, the Beach Boys, got very famous back in the day during the whole hippie movement, but also Charlie Manson was very popular too. Now, Charlie Manson was a songwriter, so he would actually write songs for the Beach Boys. Now, if you don't believe me, here's an actual song that he wrote, and this is, in fact, him singing it.
Still trying to figure out the correlation here, guys. We're gonna move past the copyrighted music, though, guys.
So with the right there is Charlie Manson. So he was very popular with the Beach Boys and with the other groups, and of course we all know what happened to Charlie Manson. Okay. So it's very, very strange, guys. And what I'm trying to say is this could possibly be an MK Ultra type of experiment on society back in the day. This is what was a way to control the youth. They weren't.
I think how he's trying to correlate it is by saying, because this was once a government, let's say, recording place, right, where they used to, re-edit the footage. That means that they actually had the equipment. And if it wasn't being used for that very specific thing, of course, they were going to use that equipment to make money. Basically charging young artists to come in and produce and record their music, right? It makes all the sense in the world that then evolved into that, because how often are we going to be doing any type of tests on the atomics, let's say, right? It makes all the sense in the world. That equipment is there. I'm not really getting the correlation. The Charles Manson thing is a little odd, guys, but I'm still not really getting it. He was crazy, guys.
We weren't really sure what was going to happen with...
Was he crazy because he was involved with MK Ultra? Guys, a lot of these documents have absolutely been declassified. Is his name there? Right?
The youth during the Vietnam War, when it was all going to happen, they were probably afraid of retaliation, maybe people getting violent, actually. So they needed some kind of opposition control. And maybe these musicians were a part of that. So Laurel Canyon, if you haven't heard about it, go ahead and look it up.
The Laurel Canyon compound was recently purchased by actor and filmmaker Jared Leto for $5 million. The Army Air Corps officially built this top-secret movie production studio in 1947. Military training films and top-secret Department of Defense documentaries were produced, including a series on above-ground nuclear tests in Nevada. That said, celebrities like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley are also said to have worked there, signing non-disclosure agreements. Oh, and Timothy Leary lived across the street. For decades, a so-called anti-propaganda law prevented the U.S. government's covert broadcasting arm from delivering politically deceptive programming to American audiences. But in 2013, that came silently to an end with the implementation of a new reform passed under the Obama administration as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, which included an amendment that nullified the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which explicitly forbids information and psychological operations aimed at influencing U.S. public opinion. Critics claim that the act also unleashed thousands of hours per week of government-funded radio and TV programs for domestic U.S. consumption in what has been criticized as a green light for politically motivated social engineering and U.S. domestic propaganda efforts.
Yeah, I will say though, after that time that he's talking about here, yeah, all of these things started popping up. Like this entire, like what you're seeing on the screen, all of this just came really in your face. Some of the smallest groups in the United States of America are now, they think that they are the largest groups, right? Yeah, this is just what has happened. This isn't wrong. This isn't a conspiracy. This is just a kind of a factual thing here.
The U.S. government has been pulling the levers behind the scenes in Hollywood for decades, from funding the 1954 animated movie Animal Farm to more recently Transformers and Iron Man. The propaganda comes in many disguises, including patriotic musical lyrics, comic books, and even abstract expressionist art. Sometimes the spin is so subtle, audiences don't even notice the CIA or military intelligence are calling the shots. American operatives aren't the only propaganda artists in the world, of course. They just happen to be the most sophisticated. And propaganda is most impactful when people don't even think it's propaganda. And in actuality, the government has influenced thousands of movies, TV shows, and programming targeting children, portraying certain racial populations as born oppressors, and promoting a woke ideology and antisocial behaviors. Politicians, activist groups.
Okay, hold on. Wait. Wait, hold on. I was trying to see what the slant was on this video here. Like, you cannot say you're making a video specifically about the concept of propaganda, right? But then instantly, kind of in the last 2 minutes of the video, then start speaking kind of like a propagandist, right? Like, for example, like I think you can fully understand that since 2013, there has been a lot more social justice type situations happening. Absolutely, I think everyone can recognize that has just been a thing that has been happening. But then, as soon as you start saying like the code words or the keywords of like a very specific side, it's kind of lost on me, because now I'm just like, okay, you're kind of making this partisan, because literally only one group says woke. So when you say woke, I instantly am just like, I probably need to listen deeper into every single word that you said kind of before all of that, right? Just to see if there was any propaganda in your speech specifically. Did the MK Ultra program exist? Absolutely. Project Paperclip? Absolutely. We know that. That's given information. Did they have a hand in creating hip hop and making it so nihilistic? No, the world did. The world did. He mentioned Africa Bambaataa, which he has no idea who this person is at all, guys. Right? But the problem here is that has nothing to do with it. Right? I'm sorry to say, Africa Bambaataa, the Furious Five, and all of the rappers from the Get Down era of hip hop really were not nihilists. They weren't. What happened was everything after that. You're forgetting that if you're referring to very specifically NWA in that era or that ilk of hip hop rappers, guys, their parents and the people around them were basically all Black Panthers. You wonder why they specifically started that type of hip hop? It's because of that. It's specifically because of who they are, who they were around, and all of the societal things that they may have went through. That, in fact, has made them nihilist. You're also referring to the same place where Rodney King, right? There's a Rodney King situation happening. You're talking about the same overall area where NWA ended up coming out of, right? So yeah, they probably didn't have any like great feelings or anything like that towards the police. You can almost guarantee that because of where they came from. I think if you logic it out and not allow it to become emotional, you can probably understand that's what happened. I hear you. I can agree on certain things, a couple of things here regarding the post 2013 thing with the Black Lives Matter and like the entire the LGBTQ plus groups and things like that just going super hard. I get it. We can talk about that being a reality because that's absolutely a reality. When did you start hearing about these things as hard as you are hearing about it now after 2013? So reality.
And promoting a woke ideology and antisocial behaviors. Politicians, activist groups, and cultural institutions, including universities and companies like Disney and DreamWorks, are being weaponized because they're deliberately inserting propaganda and social engineering into their content to perpetuate their far left agendas, including...
Yeah, that I knew it. Bro, we can have a conversation without making things partisan.
Into their content.
We can't have an intelligent conversation like this.
Far left agendas, including a cultural decline in traditional values and justifying a demographic shift that mainstream media denies is happening. As an anthropologist, I feel it's my responsibility to bring attention to the blatant attempt to derail the strength and fortitude of the family unit by eradicating national identity, concepts of ancestral heritage, racial and cultural affiliation, free speech, and even the biological notion of gender, in an effort to replace a sense of pride in local community with a globalist Marxist persona that is easier to manipulate and govern by an unelected authoritarian sect of totalitarian communist dictators. My name is Robert SEPEHR. I'm an anthropologist. My published work is available on Amazon and through all other major book outlets. If you'd like to support my work, you can do that through patreon.com. There should be a link in the description. Please subscribe for future updates. Leave your thoughts below. Have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you again soon.
Ooh, he went super hard at the end here. I respect his opinion. Obviously, I respect the opinion of people who are pretty much steadfast in their belief systems, if that makes any sense, right? Because I think sometimes these are the best people to have overall conversations or debates with, right? Like, not saying that his thoughts or opinions are wrong, because they're not. They're his, right? But there are just some issues with... You can't like say propaganda is crazy and then kind of do the exact same thing. You have to make up your mind here. You need to be somewhat more intellectually honest, I'd say. But I do think that this is well put together. There are a couple of things that I've never encountered specifically regarding the studio in Hollywood, guys. That's something that I will definitely check out. If there is anything to kind of speak on it, I'll talk about it, guys. We do have another channel dedicated to just speaking about things in longer form than I would here on this very specific channel. It's called Mr. L. Boyd Discusses, right? So we do have that where we can kind of fill in the blanks if needed. But I do think that he definitely, he put this together very well. But again, I don't lean into conspiracies. Like, once I start to like hear that type of thing, it's just like, prove it. Don't talk about it. Prove it. Just prove it right now. Prove it 100%. But I get it. I mean, I think that's what probably makes a good conspiracy in the first place, right? The ability to say something that makes maybe 75% sense, and then 25% can kind of be wild and in the air, but as long as it makes 75%, right, you're basically there. And then at the end here, he mentions like gender issues. You can be whatever you want to be as long as you don't push the thought of you being one very specific way onto other people by force, right? There are groups of people who just have the ability not to reason. And I think that's kind of the issue right now in the country, I'd say. They cannot sit down and actually deep think before they say or do anything a lot of the times, but there's nothing wrong with you not feeling comfortable with yourself. That's not even an issue for me personally, right? But this video kind of felt like he kind of want to start talking about the replacement theory and things like that. I don't care. I'm just going to be honest, it doesn't affect me like that, so I don't really, I never even thought too deeply regarding it. It never really meant anything to me. This concept of the replacement theory about the like immigrants coming into the country and they're replacing us. Who are they replacing? Not me. What are you talking about? They're not replacing you neither, right? Guys, we have so much land that doesn't bother me. I've immigrated into into 4 different countries in my life. I understand the concept of immigration completely, and that's not something that has ever, bothered me like that, because I've done it. Guys, let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? I think that it's completely okay to feel and think how you want to think and feel, as long as it does not have the ability to negatively impact specifically other groups. That's it. Do whatever you want to do. Period. Right? You are one person. That's it. Right? Your opinion means enough, right? But you, in fact, are one person. You should not have the ability to kind of tell another person what they can or cannot do with their bodies, etc. Listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.